Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. If you're new, make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification bell, because what I do here is all about Cardano and the Cardano ecosystem. So today it is taking a look at Ergo, which is an extremely popular project within Cardano, and for anyone not familiar with it, it's not actually built on top of Cardano. It is its own chain. Ergo has their own proof of work blockchain, but the similarities come with the eUtxo model that Ergo uses, the same as Cardano. So I got to sit down with Alex, Arminio and Ilya from over at Ergo yesterday evening, and I'm going to get over to that interview now in a minute. We go through all of what is Ergo, some of the different products that they're building, where they're at right now, as well as a section on the Ergo Dex, because they are building a Dex. They're building one for Ergo, but also building one for Cardano as well, because of the similarities with the model that is used. We go into the solutions as well. Concurrency, very hot topic lately. We talk about, well, Ilya talks about the solution they have with off-chain bots that can handle part of the process and how they're looking to decentralize that option as well. So just anyone not familiar with Ergo and why the connection with Cardano, Charles Hoskinson has come out and said that Alex is the smartest person in the blockchain space. And he's also said before as well that ERG is one of the very few coins that he personally owns as well. So as I said, Ergo is a proof of work blockchain, came out in 2017. They are ASIC resistant, and when they came out first as well, they didn't have a pre-mine. Unlike pretty much the majority of other chains out there at the time, Ergo went with a model that didn't include a pre-mine. So some of the apps that they have are Sigma USD, it is the first stablecoin on Ergo, and it's created in collaboration with Cardano. Ergo Mixer, we do get into this. Alex talks a bit about this in the interview as well. This enables people to bring privacy into some of their transactions as well. Ergo NFTs, Arminio talks about this towards the end of the video, and talks about the royalty solution that they're looking to bring in as well, which I think will be a really good feature to have, because when we look at the NFT space, I think this will be a really good evolution of it, in that artists don't have to worry about the initial price they get for their work. What they can do is put the work out there. They don't have to charge big money in the beginning. They can put it out there and they get a percentage of any future sales. We see what goes on in marketplaces out there with crazy prices being paid on the secondary market, but the original artist doesn't get anything out of that. So again, this incentivizes the artist. If they create a collection, an NFT collection, now it incentivizes them to grow the ecosystem later and make it better and better, because that's going to improve the aftermarket prices, which they essentially get a cut out of as well. So they also have their Ergo auction house, zero knowledge treasury, dexes as well. We go into that in the call, talking with Ilya and the solutions that they have for concurrency. So they're looking to use off-chain bots as the solution for this. So just as a very quick introduction to this, look, Ergo does a lot more out there, and what I will do is I might do a follow-up video as well that kind of looks more with just me looking into the different features and reviewing the ones that are there. But I don't want this introduction to go on too long, because in the interview we dive into a lot of these different topics. So in terms of the solution, as I said, Ilya talks about it, but to give you a very quick look at it as well and how it might look for the Cardano side, is using off-chain bots. So with the way the EUtxo model works, then you can't just use it the exact same way that the account-based model or the smart contracts on Ethereum have run. So currently, ERGOdex are in the process of testing the solution in a simulated environment. The premise of this solution is to work with implementing off-chain code with stake pool operators. With Ergo, it mightn't be stake pool operators. I think they're aiming towards a solution that anyone can actually run this off-chain code and become a part of the network, essentially supporting the network as well. So what this will also do on the Cardano side, if it comes to fruition and is the implemented model, is that it can help single pool operators, smaller pools that mightn't get a block in every epoch. Essentially, this could be an extra revenue stream there for the pool, and hopefully for the delegators that are a part of that pool as well. And the reason, or the way that that would work, is if I look at this, stake pool operators each run an off-chain logic that tracks, executes and chains transactions. So there's an execution fee that is added on top of the transaction fee then as well, when interacting with the ERGOdex UI just before the order is submitted. So every block, multiple transaction chains are submitted, one is accepted, moved to the ledger, and the stake pool who ran the winning bot is rewarded the execution fee. So there is a diagram looking at it here, and there will be an article down below that Ergo are going to release. So I'll let you guys look at it there. But breaking it down very simply, we have this here. So the client UI, so you have multiple users submitting orders via the UI. This includes the initial execution fee, which is included in the transaction cost. Off-chain SPO bots then would be hosted by the stake pool operators. These track orders and execute them. The winner then, one TX sequence is selected as a block is mined. This is all recorded on the ledger then, the results of this, and whichever pool had essentially the winning TX sequence, they then get the reward for the transaction and for winning that. So again, I'm not sure of the mechanisms of how the individual TX sequence will be chosen or any of that, but this is at a high level how this would actually work. So to me, this definitely is a solution that could work. Potentially it's something can work across multiple different dexes as well, depending on how everything is set up. And because it is spread out among a number of individuals, potentially every stake pool within the Cardano ecosystem at one point will be running these off-chain bots as well that will help with decentralizing this part of the network as well. So it's an exciting area to see how it's going to work. Once this is up and running, I will try and bring some of the guys back on again to have a look at it and see how it's performing in the real mainnet as well. So let's just jump into the call, and timestamps are down below for anyone who wants to jump to certain sections. Please do give the video a like, share it out there, and leave a comment down below to let me know your thoughts or if there's anything I missed that I need to follow up on in a future video. So let's jump into it. What's going on, guys? So today I have a really good panel of guests on the channel. So I have some people from the Ergo team who I have been getting so many requests about Ergo. Why do I not talk about Ergo? So this is the video for everyone that has been asking about Ergo, ERGodex, and we'll go around the table, I suppose, let everyone introduce themselves. Do we start with Arminio? Do you want to go first? Kind of who you are, where you fit in?
Arminio, I'm the business developer at Ergo. So I work with a lot of partners and creating, let's say, partnerships with exchanges, mining pools, working with connecting development teams, that kind of thing.
Perfect. Kushti, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so Kushti, also known as Alexander Chupurnoy. So I'm a co-developer of Ergo and working on that since 2016. And yeah, before worked for NXT, was co-founder of smartcontract.com, now known as Chainlink, helped to bootstrap some other cryptocurrencies. So yeah, my pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining. Ilya?
And Ilya, I'm core developer at Ergo and also core developer at ERGOdex currently. That's it.
Brilliant. So I suppose, look, let's just get straight into it. So anyone, by some chance, they haven't heard what Ergo is, does someone want to take it, what Ergo is all about on a high level, and then we'll get into the different parts of it?
Right, so Ergo is basically well, a complete rewrite of Bitcoin. So going from the first principles, ideological and also technical. So it's about proof of work, the same transactional model, the eUtxo model we will talk today about, I believe. But yeah, it's also about well, some scalability solutions like stateless clients, Nipopos for efficient SPV clients. Also, well, a bit different cryptography with support for out-of-box ring and threshold signatures, and yes, some more cryptographic protocols. and so on, so on, so on. Yeah, you can think of it as kind of well, very modern proof of work cryptocurrency, going from the principles of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I suppose I've seen people in the community kind of looking at their upgrading their Bitcoin technology, going to Ergo. It's the modern take on a lot of the principles that Bitcoin started. You guys seem to have taken to a completely different level in terms of you are a proof of work, but lots of changes within that as well. So there's the Cardano community loves Ergo. Why do the Cardano community love Ergo so much? It's there's a big following that I'd say within the Ergo community. I would say a good portion of that owns Cardano as well. Where did that come from? You were a part of, was it IOHK at one point?
Yeah, so, well, still, I am officially IHK research fellow, but yeah, not really working, unfortunately, on papers anymore. Well, hopefully, maybe next year I'll do some. Yeah, most of ideas behind Ergo were developed back in IHK days by me and some colleagues. Right, and also we used well, ideas described in papers from other IHK folks, well, such as Nipopos, which were developed by Agelos and Dionysus, and yeah, some other folks. So yeah, also I believe it's about the eUtxo model, right? And because of that, Ergo pioneered about some application designs such as Jet stablecoin, which was launched on Ergo first, and yeah, recently it was HK paper about more comprehensive design for the Jet stablecoin. And yeah, also I believe other applications will be translated from Ergo to Cardano and vice versa. So yeah, communities are very much aligned because of that, I believe also.
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of similarities there with Cardano using the eUtxo model as well. I suppose get to it now, one of the biggest things over the last few days, few weeks, I suppose, for Cardano anyway, coming up to smart contracts, and I've seen it with Ergo as well, is concurrency and this killer feature that's supposedly stopping DeFi and everything. Do you want to talk around that? You've obviously seen this longer than the Cardano community has come on it. Kind of solutions, or it's not a game, it doesn't stop everything happening.
All right, so there are many advantages of the eUtxos. Well, let's start with the most obvious thing. So they are more friendly for privacy preserving protocols, right? Because it's simply much more convenient to reason about privacy leaks, right, when you use something one time. And eUtxo is about using one-time immutable objects, right, to be destroyed totally. All right, then if we are talking about scalability, so scalability solutions are usually much simpler in regards with eUtxos. So for example, known solutions for fully stateless clients require for very complex and non-standard cryptography for account-based cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, and for eUtxo-based, so usually very simple hash-based data structures. I know, like Merkle trees, right? So very basic cryptographic assumptions, which is much better. All right, then eUtxos allow for parallel verification, right? It's much easier to do it, and it's also good for scalability, right? As we are going to have more and more cores in our computers, then it's easier to parallelize verification with eUtxos. Well, in regards with concurrency, so it hardly depends on application design, right? So if you can design your application to use multiple objects without synchronization on some shared state, then yeah, eUtxo is also providing, well, on application level, much more concurrency possibilities. Well, if you have some shared states, like in case of then it's pretty much about the same. So recently it was a lot of FUD about synchronization issues, right? But yeah, we can talk for more about that if you want.
Yeah, so I suppose in summary with concurrency, it's just you can't do things the exact same way they've been done on Ethereum with the account-based model. You have to look for different ways. I've seen different solutions. Now I'm not technical enough to understand all of it, but I've seen different theories on what can work, from fully decentralized to solutions with side chains to kind of half decentralized with a little bit of it centralized. And what about your own solution? Have you got a working solution now for concurrency? This kind of leads into the ERGOdex as well. I don't know if Ilya wants to take it, or Kushti, or whichever you wants to talk on it.
Right. So this very broad topic, right? Because yeah, very different models, and so solutions are different. Also, well, recent talks about Dex, right? And there are some claims that eUtxos have some issues, but actually, so in theory, at least. Right, so concurrency is about the same. So all the orders which can be executed in regards with slippage provided by users, right, will be executed, and well, possibly about the same block. So there was some issue in Cardano which prevented well, inclusion creation of transactions if they refer to unconfirmed outputs, right? But as far as I know, this is just client issue, right? So it's not about the protocol, and client can be fixed pretty easily. Maybe Ilya knows more about that.
So yeah, as Alexander said, when we try to model automated market makers on top of eUtxo blockchain, we get the situation when multiple transactions have to depend on the same eUtxo, because one single AMM pool is represented with a single eUtxo. So in such situation, we have that only one transaction succeeds and others just get rejected. And this is called double spend or race conditions, whatever you like to call it. But the problem is that if we try to make a naive implementation of a client for such DEX, as we have seen in the demo application of MinSwap, we will have that very few orders will succeed, and many other orders just get rejected. So yeah, in order to avoid this situation, we use proxy contracts. First, user who wants to make a swap creates such an order and publishes it into the network. Then off-chain services, which tracks all these orders being published into the network, executes these orders, makes transactions, and makes correct sequencing of transaction chain. So there are no double spends, and most of the orders executed in a few minutes, literally. So yeah, what all this FUD about is that these centralized sequencers are vulnerable to all these problems centralized solutions are. What we found out recently is that actually we don't have to make these off-chain bots centralized. They actually can be distributed, and anyone in the network can run as many instances of it as they want. So if one wants to support ERGOdex and wants to earn execution fees from orders, then he can set up such a service, and the only difference will be the order of execution from one sequencer bot to another. So yeah, that's the solution.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and then we have basically the same as in Ethereum, right? With the only difference that in Ethereum, so in case if your order is going to fail because of going out of slippage, for example, you pay for gas anyway, right? And here you don't pay because if transaction is not going to be executed, then it's also not to be included into the blockchain, right? So there is no need to pay for failed orders. Because there are many complaints in regards with Ethereum DEXs that you need to pay for failed orders also, right? And pay like 100 USD.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy out there at the minute when there are certain coins I'd like to try and buy up, but when I look at them only on the likes of Uniswap now, I just can't justify paying potentially $100 in fees. And I really like that with the EUtxo model, that it, from what I've seen, it happens in 2 phases. So if it fails, then I don't get charged my fee anyway. Although when you look at Cardano or Ergo, the fees are definitely nowhere near $100 anyway, but we still don't want to lose the fee if our transaction isn't processed. Just to go back on the solution then for concurrency. So the entity that kind of processes the orders, is that off chain and then it's rolled up to the chain, or you said that there's another party would control that? How does that work, or who governs, who gets to decide on the transactions?
So the order, I guess, off-chain bots only decide on the order of swaps, and then transaction chain is built from these orders, and it's committed to the blockchain.
And is it one entity runs it, or you can have multiple different bots running?
Multiple different parties can run it and earn execution fees.
And the more the better, I presume, really. It's So sticking on the DEX then, it's going to be a cross-chain DEX, is it? It's built primarily on top of Ergo, but you guys will be facilitating Cardano native assets as well, or Cardano or other chains?
In its first iterations, ERGOdex is going to be implemented both on Ergo and on Cardano. On Ergo, we already have a working beta, and for Cardano, we have a separate team which is working on Cardano implementation in parallel. So they port all our contracts and implement everything in Haskell and Platus. So yeah, ERGOdex will be both implemented on Ergo and on Cardano, and you will be able to switch between two networks right in the UI.
Okay. Very good. What's the kind of, where is the, I suppose from my side being a Cardano channel, the Cardano stage at? Is it as far on as the Ergo, where I seen you have the demo on your site or the beta that can be used? How far along is the Cardano version?
Yeah, well, in Ergo, we already have a working beta, and we already have two pools with real assets, ERG-SIG-USD, ERG-SIG-RSV. So users can already exchange their real assets on it. So I guess it can be called first decentralized exchange on eUtxo, which is already working. Well, the UI itself is still in beta, but the core protocol is working and on Cardano. We are already testing swaps regarding ERGdex in the testnet. So soon we will be able to run real swaps in the mainnet, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I suppose anyone not watching, Cardano, as we record this, doesn't have smart contracts on mainnet, but hopefully in 3 days from now, we will have the early version of smart contracts. It's not going to be the completed, it's not going to be everything launches on day one. It's going to be the first major building block, I would say. In terms of launching any other dexes or DeFi protocols I've talked to for Cardano, it's kind of mid-October, end of October before we'll actually see a working DEX or anything like that. How is that on your own timeline? Are you before that or after that? Or
yeah, we also align to this timeline. I guess we will have a working ERGdex in its first iteration in about mid-October, I guess. But again, we are working in iterations, so we make simple iterations first and steadily improve. In our documentation, there also described concentrated liquidity pools besides regular constant function market makers. We like Uniswap V2 and concentrated liquidity pools, which are to be implemented later, are like Uniswap V3. It allows to avoid impermanent loss and so on. It's more user-friendly for liquidity providers.
yeah, I like that on your website that you have the different phases of essentially your sprints of what's happening and what's coming up next. And one thing that did really jump out at me was the Decentralized Orderbook. That's obviously not going to be in V1, but that's coming down the line as well. For, again, anyone who doesn't know, it basically gives you what I would consider the best functionality of a centralized exchange is being able to put in the price that I want to buy at rather than putting in my order and hope slippage doesn't go too high that I get fairly close to what I want. But with the likes of that, is that going to come into both the Ergo and the Cardano version? Is that this year or pushing to next year at this stage?
Yeah, we kind of have a full spectrum of DEX tooling from constant function market makers to concentrated liquidity pools, which allows to specify upper and lower bounds of price, and limit orders, which allows to specify concrete price. So yeah, first we are going to implement simple AMM, and I guess order book will be the last to be implemented.
The governance of this, is there a token for the DEX, or is it using Ergo as its token?
Not yet. We don't need any token yet so far. So I guess for now, seeing this situation when SEC going to suit Uniswap for their governance token, I guess for now it's would be wise decision to not have governance token at all, and no, we don't need it at all.
Okay, great. So just on fees then, I suppose it just depends on which network you're on, whether fees are paid in ADA or paid in Ergo then.
Well, on top of Ergo, fees are paid in Ergo.
Yeah.
And protocol fees are paid in this token pair, which is depending on the pool. And so on top of Cardano, DEX fees are paid in ADA, and protocol fees are paid in tokens.
Okay. So I suppose coming away from the DEX then, let's talk about some of the other stuff that Ergo is doing. You guys have seen Ergo Raffle, Ergo Mixer, lots of other NFTs. It's does a lot.
Actions. Mixer, so yeah, there are some other projects coming like Ergo Funds, Ergo Index Fund, and what else do we have? Yeah, that's more or less it. But yeah, soon we'll have another hackathon. So after first one, we got 2 new applications. So Ergo Raffle and Ergo Index funds in the development. Hopefully after the next hackathon, we'll have a few more applications. Let's see.
Okay, and just to go into, I suppose, the Ergo Mixer then, what exactly is that for people who haven't heard of it or know what it is? It includes privacy features anyway.
It's called Mixer, but it's not like Bitcoin Mixer. Actually, it's much better because first it's non-custodial, right? So no any trusted service holds your funds. And then it's non-interactive, right? Means no any trusted service is coordinating your mixing, right? And that's about completely different level, right? So then it provides you another level of anonymity because, well, you are working with blockchain just, right? In this regards, it's more or less like early Monero. Maybe so hard to say how possible anonymization could be compared because there is no formal model still. So for Monero, it also appeared like 4 years after the mainnet launch, right? And all those models are very rough anyway, and so on. Let's see. But yeah, in comparison with Bitcoin mixers, it's completely different thing. And by the way, talking about Ethereum mixers, so account-based cryptocurrency again. Right, so there are some mixers which are good on paper. For example, Möbius, but yeah, they are failing in practice because of properties of account-based model, right? So, for example, privacy is leaked when you are paying fees and so on, right? So, it's hard to get privacy when you are using long-living accounts.
Yeah, that's what essentially everything with the account-based model is in and out of one address, where UTXO you can have any number of addresses connected to one wallet.
Yeah. So privacy in account-based cryptocurrency is much trickier, and there are no any models for that, and basically they're likely impossible to be appeared, right? Because you can't formalize privacy leak if there is some privacy leak, basically, right? If you are using the same object twice, so there is some privacy leak anyway. All right. So yeah, please use Ergo Mixer, and as far as we know from anonymous developers of it, tokenization of its income flow is coming. Right, so there will be some token tradable on ERGOdex as well. Maybe they will do IDO. Maybe it will be the first IDO on top of ERGOdex. Let's see.
Okay. So NFTs, all the rage in the market right now. Ergo has their own NFTs. NFTs on Ergo, are they the same as Cardano, where they're effectively a native asset rather than created through a smart contract? I presume there's similarities there, is there?
Yeah, so I don't know. There are a lot of NFTs around. That's what I know. Maybe Armenia has a better idea.
What was the question?
State of NFTs. Do you know?
State of NFTs. Well, at the moment, I know the developers for that DApp are working at refactoring the backend and actually adding a royalty functionality to where if you, Paul, create an NFT on Ergo and you sell it in that DApp, and the person that buys it decides to resale, that particular NFT on that DApp, there can be a royalty fee that's paid back to your initial minting wallet, which hopefully, as things start to turn over and people start to trade and play with these things, it creates an incentive for artists to come onto our system and build. We do have audio NFT support. That's pretty raw at the moment, but I would love to see that be developed, especially as we get the royalty feature live.
Yeah, I think the royalty part is something that I'm looking forward to seeing the NFT space move towards, because at the minute there's a lot of cash grabs straight up in NFT space where you just throw out a bunch of NFTs. But what I would like to see is artists releasing the NFTs for very cheap in the beginning, and they're not looking at upfront is the cost that they get, it's the resale value, because you see what happens in some of the secondary markets, and it's insane what's being paid for the images right now. But if artists were incentivized to put out good work, that they can use that and get a cut of all after sales, that's a very good use case, I think. And even the audio one, what you're saying there with the music industry, so many artists get signed up to these early deals that just kill them, but maybe there's something in the NFT side for them.
Yeah, they get in the print situation where their royalty initial label or whatever ends up ripping them off. That's common. And so that I think smart contracts can start to slowly displace a small chunk of like legal weight that most people don't want to deal with anyway.
Yeah. And one other thing I hear lots of talk on Ergo as well is about oracles. So you guys are building your own oracles. So I suppose Chainlink is the biggest one out there, or the most widely known for in the crypto space, but Ergo are building your own oracles. Is that for Ergo? Is that for other blockchains? Or
so there is kind of a unique Oracle solution called Oracle Pools. That's basically an agreement protocol, right, for many oracles to get in consensus in regards with USD price, for example, right? Currently there is one pool in production used in the stablecoin, and There is some work on improving the Oracle pools currently, and to also get it working for non-numeric data, for example, and so on. What else is?
So for now, they're primarily focused on Ergo and within the Ergo ecosystem, are they?
But I think the same design can be translated into other blockchains. So yeah, Cardano in the first place.
Okay, and is that something that's near ready for the market? The oracles in general, I suppose dexes will all need Oracle solutions to be able to pull market feeds and market prices.
So actually, Oracle pools launched around August 2020, and used for the stablecoin already, and working more or less well, and another iteration is coming.
Okay, I put out a message yesterday to see about questions that people had, and I think we've covered a lot of them. Some of the other ones then is Ergo support on Ledger hardware wallets. I suppose this is a hard one to answer because it's not just on you guys, but a few people are wondering about when they can get that support. I don't know if anyone knows that.
It's in development. We had a meeting this week actually with the team that's building that. Where we are at this stage is essentially alpha testing with our wallet developers. That's just something you want to hammer out and make sure there's no errors before you push it live. To where I know a lot of users are like, we want it now, but it's one of those things I would rather have them wait a little bit and be safe with their funds. So
definitely.
We'll see how testing goes. So I don't want to commit to that other than, let's say, when we push it, it'll be stable. And that's really what they want.
That's always best. Yeah. Like I always push people to say, look, if you have a decent amount of funds, get a hardware wallet for that extra layer of security. But in this case, you want to make sure that the app and everything is 100% on point with security audits and everything completed. They're more important than rushing out the door. So the other kind of thing is, I seen from the community early on, is Ergo has this amazing ecosystem, doing so much stuff, but people don't know about them. So any new marketing or exchanges coming up in the next while? I know you went on KuCoin lately, which was good to bring a lot more liquidity in.
Yeah, we'll be rolling out on Changely soon. I'm not sure exactly when the launch date is. There's some complications on their end.
Okay.
We do have other things in the works, but I can't really speak to it, unfortunately. Usually, in order to get into a room, I got to sign the paper that lives. Is what it is.
That's good. I suppose Changely is another option for anyone not familiar with it. Basically, you'll be able to buy Ergo straight with a credit card then through Changely, won't you?
Yep.
Nice. Then one of the final ones then, I suppose there was scalability and any future problems with a proof of work system. We see the heat that Bitcoin gets sometimes for being proof of work, but it does bring advantages as well as against proof of stake as well. What's your own thoughts on being a proof of work system?
So for Ergo, there are even more advantages. The plan is to stick with proof of work.
I think it just depends on the user. If you want to buy a proof of stake token, you have to have some liquidity or entry into the market. Versus a lot of miners just use hardware for short-term cash flow. And so if you have, particularly people in like Asia, Russia, Africa, places where cash flow is kind of a issue, liquidity is an issue, mining makes sense. And as long as there's that economic incentive, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It is a good, selling point for proof of stake. And it is true that proof of stake is less energy intensive. But just in terms of the economic incentive, it really just depends on the user.
Yeah, I think just when bring that up, it's you guys are nowhere on the scale of using the amount of power that Bitcoin or anything like that. that uses. So that's not a worry on your side either. And from what I see, it's a lot easier for people to get into Ergo mining. I see expectation that when Ethereum finally shuts down their mining, that there's lots of people over there looking at Ergo as an alternative for their mining equipment.
Oh, it's already happening, by the way. So low-end GPUs now, well, can be more profitable, usually more profitable for Ergo than for Ethereum. So yeah, old GPUs currently mining Ergo only, as far as I know, mostly. Yeah, so for proof of work, you know, it's also about different economy. So that's basically like yeah, kind of fair distribution, right? Well, across GPU owners, right? And yeah, proof of stake is more like yeah, you are buying shares, right, directly in some, well, a decentralized corporation. And yeah, that's very different attitude, right? So it's
the proof of work versus proof of stake is definitely a thing for something else, but both bring advantages to the individual ecosystems anyway. So
yeah, it's something traders fight about, you know.
Sorry?
It's something that traders kind of fight about and use to poke at each other in terms of like,
yeah,
whose system is better.
I think people use it for their own narrative. If they're a proof of stake, they try and say sometimes, oh, proof of work is bad, and then you have proof of work saying proof of stake is this wrong and that wrong. But to me, both have their advantages and they suit different ecosystems as well. So is there anything else that you guys will wrap it up there? Is there anything else on Ergo or anything that you want to put out or we haven't covered?
Yeah, so there is one thing about the eUtxo applications, which is greatly undervalued. So, for example, in the mixer, you can mint stable coins directly, right? You also can try to make a bid for NFT from the mixer. So I tried once and it was successful. And yeah, you can fund oracles right from the mixer and so on. So yeah, Dex is compatible with Orderbook Dexes and so on, so on. So well, it's about completely different composability, right? And still, it's not used much, unfortunately. But yeah, it provides a lot of value, I guess.
Yeah, I would add before we close, with off-chain code, a big part of it just depends on how it's implemented. You know, in Cardano anyway, you're going to have a lot of dApps that come out that have kind of a spectrum of, let's say, decentralization, where you may have one dApp where you have one actor that's hosting the off-chain code for that particular dApp. And, you know, reality is, depending on what it actually does, that may or may not be a problem. One unique thing about the Ergo mixer is every user actually runs all of their off-chain code on their computer in front of them, to where, you know, each, let's say, user kind of localizes the system right in front of them. And I believe what Ilya is working towards with his bot solution is to where people have that option to localize the off-chain code, and I believe even get some incentive. Is that correct? Where it's like an exchange fee that's built into the transaction fee? Ilya?
What?
I was talking about your bot solution in terms of people being able to run it locally. There's
yeah.
incentive for that, yeah?
Yeah, as I said, people can run it locally and earn fees, but they have to run it in long term. I guess it would benefit the system more.
So ideally,
run it, not just to execute only their orders, but
Sure.
to execute all orders in the system. Yeah.
So
And,
ideally,
it's important to keep in mind that off-chain bots are limited by validator scripts, which are on-chain. So all protocol rules are checked on-chain. So there's not much space to cheat for off-chain bots.
but that's something, Paul, I would recommend people in the Cardano community watch is, you do have kind of an ability to decentralize off-chain code to where it's not really running in one instance. And you'll see, a spectrum of that as different projects roll out.
Yeah, I think it's not always a bad thing having if it's not 100% decentralized running on chain. Like we look at, I think I've seen that even Ethereum now are looking to go to a layer 2 for NFTs, and they're trying to move stuff out, trying to sort out some of the issues they have. So not everything has to run, I would say, on the top level. There's lots of other solutions there as well for scalability and for transactions on chain. So thanks very much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I hope that community, this has answered some of the questions, educated people on kind of what's out there as well. I'll put all of the links to Ergo, ERGOdex and everything down below as well. And he said there's another hackathon coming up, so I can add in the links for that as well whenever that's up.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.